So, anyways, you guys can leave right now with his advice, and it's called the DD rule. All right, I'm not talking about drivers, dive-ins, and dives. My boy Guy Fieri there. It means this. It means do a deal, damn it. Especially if you guys have never done a deal before. This is one of the things that people get in their head about, right? Is all the analytical stuff that goes there. There's a reason why idiots like myself are successful in real estate is because it is an idiot's business. It's not a thinking man's business. It's basic arithmetic. If you're wondering about, do I do STR, MTR, LTR, DCR, all of the TRs, just do a deal, damn it. Which is my next point. This is a survey, by the way. This is official. Who made mistakes in their first deal? Raise your hand, please. Okay, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Did you die? You're still raising your hands. That's not good. All right, Walking Dead here. That's actually survey response bias. My wife is actually a math teacher. Listen, guys, you're going to make mistakes in the process. None of it's going to be fatal. I've made mistakes that have cost me tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars in my real estate career. So this is about my journey. I have been a real estate investor for 19 years. I started with this little guy right here. This is a 4-family. The only reason I bought it, my why at the time, was because my dad was kicking me out of the house. I thought it was really cool to not pay rent, and he didn't think that was so cool. I like the idea of living rent-free, so I bought a 4-plex. And that's how I got bit by the bug. And I scaled from there into buying more and more smaller multifamily properties. It took me 11 years to accumulate 25 properties, 76 units before I was able to replace my income. This was very important to me because I lost both my parents in my 20s, and I saw after they died, unbeknownst to my brother and I, they were living paycheck to paycheck. And so I didn't want to participate in that. So that was my essentially journey. I started graduating into bigger and bigger deals. So I started doing larger multifamily, larger commercial deals. And to date, our company owns about 176 units, $18 million worth of real estate assets. And we started with how many properties? 1. That's what we're talking about tonight. And my framework I'm going to talk to you about tonight is not only going to tell you about the 1, but also how to use best practices and a framework within which you can actually have a repeatable and scalable business and avoid a lot of the pitfalls that I made in doing my first deal to make it scalable. Because I'm going to tell you right now, 1 property is not going to change your life. That property that pays you $500 in cash flow, it may seem great from day one, but it's gonna get old 5 years later when you're like, I can do DoorDash on the weekends and not go through this much trouble, okay? The purpose of your first property is to buy your second and your third and your fourth. Because I've been a real estate agent as well, and I know by like clockwork, clients that I had, they contacted me, they're like, I wanna buy an investment property because it seems like a good idea, all right? Or my knucklehead friends are doing it. It's not a good enough reason, all right? So your first property is to like figure out, okay, do I like this thing? And if so, can I scale it from there and create amazing financial outcomes in your life and get the third paycheck, as my client Todd describes. Okay, we're talking about 30, 60, 90 days. Oh, by the way, some housekeeping here. No need to raise your hand. If you want to raise your hand and be polite, you can, but just shout out any questions you possibly have and I'll answer those, okay? So your first 30 days, all right? I hate this question, so I'm just gonna answer right now. Just start an LLC, all right? Regardless of whether you're gonna buy a property in your personal name or an LLC or whatever, I'm sick of getting the question, so I'm just gonna say it right now. Just start an LLC, and here's why. The longer an LLC is in existence, the more creditworthy it becomes, because when you're applying for business credit, by the way, like business credit cards have actually saved my behind in the past when I've had rehab projects that have gone over budget. When you have an LLC that's been in existence longer, then you get bigger lines of credit when you're going to apply for, like, let's say business credit cards. And I've had 0% interest financing or 12 months, 18 months with various credit cards I've done. I've used those credit lines to put down earnest money deposits in properties, to fund rehab projects that I way under budgeted. Like I said, it saved my behind in the past. And also, it's just gonna get it out of the way. And by the way, use an attorney to form an LLC. Don't do LegalZoom, because it's gonna cost you a lot more money to fix what LegalZoom messed up. The publication requirements, the certification of the publication requirements, the articles of organization, the operating agreement, all that stuff, okay? Because you can go on the cheap and do it through LegalZoom for 150 bucks, and then when you actually have to use it, you're gonna have to pay an attorney more to fix it. So time value of money, just do it right the first way. Oh yeah, come to every free event you possibly can. Get obsessed, guys. Whether this is your first property or second property, if you're going to achieve this in a short period of time, and 90 days is not a long time at all, you want to get obsessed, all right? Be obsessed or be average. And to get obsessed is surrounding yourself with people that have done it before and that are in pursuit constantly. Check out our calendar of events. You're gonna see we have, I don't know, Kayla, how many events do we have per month? Like 10, 12, right? Like just by absorption alone, by being surrounded by people like Vlad Morochnik and Joe LaBarbera, like Barrington, for instance, Todd Reed. You're just gonna get that marinated in that social network, and you'll be like, you know what? These guys aren't really that smart, right? Like I can do this. And also, there's people here that give away and volunteer their time to help you along the process. Yeah, come to every event that you can. If you want to achieve this in a short period of time, the best thing to do is to surround yourself with people that are actually doing it, that have done it, that have been successful, earn the battle scars in the process. There's no book, there's no podcast, there's no killer app that can replicate that. This is gonna be a long-term type of thing, but just tell everybody about what you're doing, what you're about to do. When you saw an ad for this event about becoming a part of the 6% club, all right, if you own a rental property, you are part of the 6% of Americans that own income property. The other 94% only dream of it. All right, so if you own a property, pat yourself in the back, you're part of the 6% club. The other 94%, every one of them wants to own investment property. If you're looking to scale in the future and build a relationships with people that might be investment partners in the future, OPM, for instance, private money, they have to be aware of what you're doing, okay? And I don't care about, like, let's say social media. I'm like, social media's only purpose is to make money for you, okay? I don't care about anything else. I don't care about the halftime show at the Super Bowl. Like I said last night, if Slayer's not playing at the halftime show, I am not watching the Super Bowl halftime show, all right? Maybe dilute some of that stuff out. Yeah, king. All right, so dilute some of that nonsense out there with what you're doing in your journey, because people want to see what you're doing, because sometimes maybe if they're not an investment partner, maybe you're gonna inspire them. But being the go-to person and documenting your journey, one of our people that's associated with FRIA, he's living in Killington, Vermont, but Breck McManus, for instance, started documenting his journey about how he acquired a motel in Killington, Vermont, right? And he's had tremendous success for doing that. Just tell everybody about it, okay? I'm starting this journey. Who hasn't bought a real estate property yet, investment property? Okay, so have you told anybody about what you're doing? No. Okay, that's gonna change, all right? I'm doing this. Plus, it's gonna hold yourself accountable too. It's like, damn, did you buy that property that you're looking to buy this? And you'll be like, oh, I hate myself. All right, you hold yourself accountable, tell people what you do. Like I said, start documenting your journey on social media. I'm always a big advocate of this. I've been active on social media for 6 or 7 years. This is how I've been able to raise multiple 7 figures of cash for commercial properties that I acquire in my business, is by doing this. It's a slow burn. You're not gonna be able to meet a stranger here, ask for a 7 figures check for one of your deals. Relationships take time, and documenting your journey is going to augment a social augmentation and social blockchain It's going to allow them to keep you in the mind and changing your identity that your person is going to do this because people want to see where you began. All right, so get pre-approved for a mortgage. If you're not bankable to buy an investment property, whatever that may be, remember DDD, do a deal, damn it. If you're not bankable from day one, you gotta look at your own personal balance sheet, right? Real estate or any business is not going to save you if you have trouble with your own balance sheet, all right? If you can't pay the bills, if your credit is all jacked up and no bank will lend 5 cents to you, then you gotta fix that, all right? We're not gonna go into that tonight, but I was in a bad position when I was in residential real estate as a crappy real estate agent, and I had negative $8 in my bank account, and I had to work at Tubine as a busboy in order to pay the bills and that sort of thing. I was not buying real estate at that time. In terms of getting pre-approved for a mortgage, there are several companies that are around, mortgage banks. There's a couple different options, right? Typically, your mortgage banks that are around here, like Premium Mortgage. Who's some other mortgage banks that are around here? They do conventional. Shout it out.
Yeah, Genesee Regional Bank.
GRB. Okay, who else? CNB. Lions, LNB. Yeah, shout out to Lions National. We have a lot of aggregate credit risk aggregate credit exposure in the room here with LNB. Contacting those, I love to do deals with GRB, CNB, because they not only do off-balance sheet lending, which is like your typical conventional 30-year fixed rate type of things, but they do portfolio loans as well. So if you have a deal that doesn't fit in the cookie cutter box that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac want you to be in, then they have other options within which to put you in, okay? And portfolio loans are they're the OG DSCR loans, okay? I've been doing DSCR loans since 2008. They're not nothing new, all right? Having those relationships there where you can pivot, typically a larger mortgage bank that only does conventional, when you don't have a deal that fits in the box, then they're not usually gonna be able to help you. Any questions, guys? We're like breezing through this. All right, tough crowd. All right, yes, sir.
Your first house, how much did you put down and how did you manage to buy a 4-unit?
Okay, so question was, how much was the first house? How much did I have to put down? This is a 4-family property. It was in the Park Avenue area. I bought it the total ticket price was $165,000. I got a $5,000 seller concession. How did I find a 4-family property in Park Avenue, even in 2006, for $160,000 net? I called on expired listings, all right? So this was like my first off-market deal. What happened was it was on the MLS, it got sold, the buyer's financing fell through, the owner actually replaced the roof on the house, and we're just like, we're just gonna keep it. And so I called them, and we made a deal that way, all right? At this point in time, it was 2006. That property, I used a non-conforming loan. Who remembers non-conforming loans? Subprime mortgages, okay? So I did a 10% down subprime mortgage on that property. The interest rate was 8.8% interest. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So after you've done all this stuff, you told everybody what you're gonna do, all this other stuff, right? 60 days, analyze one property a day. I don't care where it is, just analyze it. It gets you into the habit. This is about establishing habits because you're doing something that nobody else does, is buying a real estate property, right? So you want to get in the habit of doing this and make it part of your constitution. And we're gonna get into actually how to analyze properties. I'm not gonna go into like great detail tonight because that's the easiest part of this whole thing. Some people get so caught up on how do I analyze a property, right? It's so easy. The hard part is finding the property and putting the financing together for the deal, okay? Not analyzing properties and running numbers. I can tell you that. Walk one property a week, minimum, all right? This is what makes things real. I remember when I was looking at properties online, we had the internet back in 2006. It was broadband internet. Seeing it in person takes it to a whole nother reality. So just doing that, it's like, hey, if I don't walk one property a week, then what do I mark this week as? Not a W, but an L. all right? So walk one property a week. Check it out. Even if it's not a property you're interested in. Sorry for the real estate agents here where I just said that. Sorry, Niner. Just do it. It makes it more real. You get to establish what rent comparables are like. All right, well, 2-bedroom in this condition, their contract rent on this is $850 a month. And then a 2-bedroom in this condition, this area is $950 a month. So you get an idea as to what rent comparables are, so you can understand, okay, what can I do with the property I'm going to actually buy? Make an offer on any property that you're interested in, okay? This is the shots on goal, all right? You want to get shots on goal. You want to get the reps in. Don't get into your own head about, well, the property really is only worth this amount, but they're asking $100,000 more than that. Just make a damn offer. Sorry, Niner, and all the other real estate agents. But seriously, an income property is not an emotional business. This is a numbers business. Obviously, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Like, you're not going to be able to buy a property and double your money in 1 year, all right? You might be able to, on paper, on Bismarck Street, or what's another popular street? One of the alphabet streets, right? That's a myth, all right? You're not going to get rich quick. Remember, do a deal, damn it, all right? The bank is not going to let you fail and buy a property that's going to lose money from day one. Even if it loses money, you're not going to die. This is another big thing as a real estate agent. Somebody counters back on a property. This is whole, like, who's read Art of the Deal? Anybody? Okay, all right. Written by a very popular guy right now. Negotiations. Everybody has a different negotiation style. When somebody counters back on a property, one thing is, like, if you're dealing with a property that you're like one-on-one, mano-a-mano with the seller, or you don't have any other competition, make sure you're leaving a little bit of room for negotiation, or even if you can come up a little bit. Because you don't want to offer, like, let's say property's listing price is $200,000, your max allowable offer is $150, and you lead in with $150, and then they come down to $165, and you're like, sorry, I can't come up. And they're like, well, I came down so much, you can't even come up like one nickel? This is only taken into consideration when you are one-on-one with an actual seller or you have no competition on the table. In a multiple offer situation, you're not gonna have that luxury. Oh yeah, come to every free event. And then during this point in time, when you're walking properties every week, analyzing properties, making offers, you are going to be on the struggle bus, okay? You're gonna be like, nothing's working, I'm banging my head against the wall. What do I do, guys? And there is no better crew than the seasoned, battle-hardened veterans that we have in our organization that volunteer to help you. Come to every free event that you possibly can. Any questions on the 60 days? This is all easy stuff, guys, right? All right. I hate to plug I don't know if BiggerPockets is a competitor, but analyzing deals is, I remember doing one a day. Who has another investment calculator that they like that's like particularly user-friendly? Anything? CCIM? CCIM spreadsheet would make people's head explode here, all right? I'm a member of IREM as well, Institute of Real Estate Management, and their spreadsheet is like, it's got 20 tabs on it and that sort of thing. But yeah, shout out to CCIM. So BiggerPockets actually has a pretty cool calculator that's on here. I think this only comes with the paid pro membership. The National RIA has an investment property calculator on there. It's not as good as this one. So this is like you basically put in the address, you plug in the numbers, the rental income, any rent appreciation, any underlying property appreciation, and it will spit out all of this stuff you see here. And one thing to remember is typically if you're buying multifamily property, you're gonna hear this thing called the 50% rule. It's generally correct. And generally on older stock multifamily, anything that's like 1980s or older, whatever the rent is, generally 50% of that is gonna be expenses. When you consider vacancy and collection loss, management fees. If you're not plugging in management fees, even if you're self-managing, don't do that, okay? You're gonna get sick of managing someday, all right? And when you get an appraisal done, especially with commercial appraisals, they're gonna dock you for management fees anyway, so you wanna make sure you count it for your numbers, okay? Repairs and maintenance, CapEx, taxes, insurance, all of this stuff, utilities, water. All right, usually going to add up to about 50% of what the rental income is, or rental revenue. All right, so that's quick. Back of the envelope. Is it back of the envelope or back of the napkin? I just want to settle a debate right now. Whatever my heart desires, right? Back of the envelope makes more sense to me. All right, this right here, it spits this out. And the thing is that you can actually save this on the BiggerPockets website, and then you can actually see all of the work that you've done in analyzing all these properties one a day while you're going through this journey, right? And this is what gives you comfortability with running your numbers, looking at properties, making it more real. Remember, you're trying to be a freak. 6% club, yes. I don't know, how much is a BiggerPockets Pro membership? Is it $140 a year or something like that? It's more than that now? Damn private equity firms is flipping these corporations. It used to be like $140 or $99 or something like that. Joe, what tool do you use for like running numbers on investment properties?
I just basically add, just like you did, I'll add everything up, take 50% for expenses, figure out the cap rate, and then take into account what it's gonna be. I'm not smart to use all those calculators. I just try to figure it out the stupid way, the long way, but it works for me.
Nice. So yeah, the BiggerPockets, I'm a pro member because I've gone to their conferences before and that sort of thing. So it's just a tool that I know that exists. But don't get in your head. Everybody has their own spreadsheet on running the numbers. Just do it consistently. Any other questions on what we covered so far? Yes, sir.
Any sort of credit unions that would lines of credit on investment properties?
Banks or credit unions that have lines of credit on investment property, non-owner occupied investment property, right? Locally, I don't. All right, I did find on the BiggerPockets website there's like a list of banks that do that. Anybody know that does it? Oh, LNB does, right? Yeah, so Lions National Bank does actual lines of credit in second position on investment property. Up to 80% loan to value.
Well, it's a HELOC, so as your property appreciates, you can write a check off the appreciation.
Okay, so you can actually update it, that sort of thing. Okay.
It requires you paying for an appraisal.
Okay, so you got to pay for appraisal out of pocket, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so LNB, Lions National Bank. All right, cool. Any other questions, guys, before we move on? Yes, sir.
What about a general question? I live in a house that's under my name, and I'm going to move out of that. Is it smart to, and I want to rent it out after I move, is it smart to move that into the LLC? And like two banks look at that better, even with the LLC?
Okay, so the loan, you have a loan on the property, right? Okay, so the question is, I bought a property in my own personal name, I got a loan in my own personal name, should I quit claim the property to an LLC? That's the question, right?
Yeah, should I pay? I know you have to pay to transfer it.
Yeah, it's nothing, it's a quick claim deed. So one thing is that you can do that, but you'd be in technical default of your mortgage documents, because it would trigger a due on sale clause. I've done this before. I don't know, who's done this and actually had their note called by the bank? Anybody? So we have a little bit of survey response bias, but not as big as the big question. So yes, that can limit your liability, but you still have that debt on your balance sheet. As you grow, and this is the great thing about banks like GRB and CNB and these community banks, is that they have commercial lending where you can actually refinance that property that you bought, especially if you have significant equity in it. Refinance it, get it quick claims to your LLC, and then also get the loan taken off your personal credit report and put into the name of your LLC. Now, you're still going to be a personal guarantor. There's going to be a contingent liability, but it's going to disappear off your credit report. When I was building and using residential mortgages, my credit score was like 750 and dropped to like 620. I was became like a total deadbeat because I was carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars in mortgage debt on my personal credit report. But then when I did a portfolio loan refi on my portfolio, got the debt on my personal name off the FICO reports, my credit score shot up to like in the 800 range. That's advantageous as well. Did I answer your question, or do you have a follow-up question to that? Okay. Anybody else? I love answering questions. All right. All right, so at this point in time, when you start making shots on goal, you are going to get your offer accepted. All right, so at this point in time, you're going to put an earnest money deposit down. All right. Generally speaking, on investment property, depending on the size, who's a realtor in here? Besides Niner, because I keep picking on her. Yes, sir. What's the general size of a earnest money deposit on a property, for instance?
It totally depends. I mean, I usually recommend to my clients they do in our current market as much as possible because you're competing against 20 other people. So you want to show that you have buying power. You want to go more further earnest money.
Depends as much as possible. It's like no answer at all. I love it.
For
Yes.
us, as low as possible.
Okay, we're talking about earnest money deposit to get a property under contract. Okay. So I guess it depends, right? Competitive offer situation is, and you really want the property and whatever price you're offering at, you're getting it for a great deal and as much as you possibly can spare. You're gonna have so many contingencies built in that contract that if, let's say, it doesn't pass inspection, you can't get financing, whatever, then you get your earnest money deposit back, right? And also one slick trick is making sure that this is one thing that I've run into is, I don't know if people are still doing this, but this is definitely more prevalent in commercial real estate transactions, is the seller's attorney holds the earnest money deposit, not the seller's broker and their quote unquote escrow account, okay? But then it may not be negotiable. Sometimes agents don't want to hold on the earnest money deposit. But I had a situation that happened with a smaller brokerage, like very small, put an earnest money deposit down to $50,000 on a 5-family property. It was buying in Park Avenue. Deal fell through because the seller farted in their pants and didn't like the way it felt and decided to kill the deal. And I requested the earnest money deposit back, and the broker was like, yeah, I spent it. All right, a slick trick there. All right, a lot of these things when you're underwriting properties, running the numbers, you're going to be making assumptions, right? So this is going to be in your contingency period. It may be very quick. Sometimes it's going to be the seller's attorney approval period, which may be 3 days, okay? You're also going to have a financing contingency on the actual property itself. You're going to also have time to actually go through and verify assumptions. If those assumptions don't prove correct, this is like based upon what you think you can rent the place out for if there's vacant units, if going through and verifying what the insurance cost is going to be in the property, all of these things here. So verify those assumptions. Make sure that you're not looking at this thing with rose-colored glasses, okay? After you get through the contingency period, this is usually either inspection or attorney approval period, is getting the formal loan application in with the bank. Some people just think like, I got the offer accepted, and then they never actually put a formal loan application in with the bank. And then when the commitment letter is due and the contract, you're like, where's your commitment letter? Oh yeah, no, I got approval. Show me the approval. Here's a pre-approval letter. I was like, did you get the loan application in with the bank? I thought it was already in. I already gave them paperwork, all right? So make sure to actually get your formal loan application in. It's gonna be a lot more paperwork than what it took to get your pre-approval letter. All right, attorney's gonna be very important. New York State is notorious even for cash deals of taking very long on title work and that sort of thing. So make sure to push the attorneys. Typically, I'm glad there's no attorney, well, there is an attorney here, Patrick Quigley, but yeah. But make sure to be the squeaky wheel. All right, attorneys got a lot of stuff going on. They got a lot of billable hours to get out there. Make sure to be the squeaky wheel to get your deal closed. And then, Patrick, what do you think about Estoppels?
On a commercial deal, certainly. Residential deal, if you can get them, why not? Because otherwise you're relying on the statement of the seller versus, so the seller says this is the greatest property in the world, and then go to the tenants, and the tenants say this is the worst property in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably would rely on their opinion of where they live versus the seller's interpretation of what they own.
What an estoppel is, this is basically like an affirmation of the tenant, signed by the tenant, that's, this is my security deposit, this is my lease ends, do I owe any rent, right? Like, do I have a zero balance and all that sort of thing, right? So this is especially these days when we're in a regulatory environment and you may be buying a property that is in a challenging area, you definitely want to make sure of this. I've had clients that have bought larger multifamily deals where the seller purposely pumped the property full of tenants that had no business being there, gave them 2 months free rent, gave them super high rents like for that actual, those market comps there, and nobody was current, okay? It was a complete dumpster fire, all right? And you can be left months getting a bad tenant out when you inherit them, okay? My recommendation is to get Estoppels. It's not that big of a deal. It's basically, it's like, hey, is this your lease? And then is it actually true? Like, is this your security deposit? A lot of times what ends up happening too is that you'll get these like sneaky sellers that will actually, like, tenant is not current and they'll say, hey, I'll credit your security deposit towards your ledger. Then the seller actually has to pay or credit less at closing for security deposit. They get a certified rent roll that says 0 security deposit on there, okay? Big red flag. Another thing I love to do is close, especially on multifamily properties between the 10th and 15th of the month. You actually get credit for the pro rata portion of the actual rent that you do on the deal you're buying. That combined with the actual security deposits, you get credited to you at closing, as well as any pro rata rent, helps you to defray your closing costs. When you're buying properties on a shoestring budget like I was in the early days, like this definitely helps. It's saved me thousands of dollars in the past. And last thing is, come to every free meeting. This is 90 days. Meet hard money lenders. Who's a hard money lender here? Todd? Anybody else? Dan? Anybody? Mark? Any other hard money lenders here? All right, hard money lender they're private lenders, right? They're not banks, they're like private banks. The reason why they're important and meeting them is because when you buy your first property, like this happened to me, I spent every penny I had to do it, okay? And when you close your first property, all that work you're putting into landing that first property usually ends up turning into your second, third, fourth, and fifth deal happening in rapid succession to that one. Now you're cash poor. Now you need additional resources. So as long as you're buying properties right, you can put together killer creative deals utilizing private lenders and credit cards and home equity lines of credit and other types of fancy stuff to land your second, third, fourth, and fifth deal. All right. What time do we have right now? Because I'm recording on 7:37. Okay. All right. We're gonna wrap up. All right. So resources and how to learn more. Definitely join Freya. D, are you still here? You got your credit card machine? All right. So $229. Definitely join. We have some prizes actually. D, we have some raffles for members. I have a book that I have up for raffle that I guarantee you no real estate investor here has ever read. Very valuable. It's up there. D, are you gonna raffle it off? Okay, she's working on it, okay? All right, so definitely join as a member here. Comes a ton of benefits, community, camaraderie, and then also listen to podcasts. Like I said, get obsessed. So if you're listening to podcasts every single day, if you're going to our meetups, if you're reading this stuff, like, it's going to be your life, all right? And if you focus for 90 days on something that you feel like your life depends on it, you're going to make it happen. I guarantee it. What else here? That pretty much covers it all. Okay, so next Wednesday, 4 members only. We're gonna have a continuation of this. I'm gonna be there with our co-host. I have no idea who our co-host is for Power Hour. Is it Dan? All right, I'm gonna be with Dan. Dan's a powerhouse. Son DJ might be there as well to give his sage advice as well. But definitely join us next Wednesday at noon, and we'll be able to give you individualized advice, mentorship, completely no BS stuff. Okay? Any questions before we wrap it up? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got 2 ways up. Where do you mostly invest? Like, where do you buy your rental properties? Have you looked mostly in the city? Have you actually gone for certain locations, or have you just kind of been pretty broad about it?
So the question was location, right? This is like one of those unforgivable sins when it comes to real estate is focus on location. If you overpay for a property in a great location and you can weather the storm and hold on to that property, even hey, this thing is losing me money every month and I have I don't know, drive Uber Eats or something like that to make it afloat, and it's in a good area, and you can weather the storm and raise rents over time and stabilize the property. That is a better scenario than buying in a bad location. You can't pick up that house and move it to someplace else, all right? Me personally, I focused pretty much solely in the city of Rochester. Our portfolio is 70% commercial, like office, industrial, retail, that sort of thing, 30% multifamily. It used to be the other way around. It used to be 70% multifamily, 30% commercial, but we've transitioned as a company over the past like 5 years or so. But it's all in the city of Rochester, and that's by design, right? Some people say, it's so tough in our city, and you can't make anything happen, that sort of thing. It's like, yes, things have changed. We've adapted. We've done less residential, but we've done fine, okay? I think where you're gonna get your competitive advantage is in knowing, like the back of your hand, every street, every block, all the players, what the rents are, all this nuanced stuff that gives you invaluable competitive advantage to your peers. If you're going into a new market, you're gonna be the new fool, all right? You are. I used to represent sellers in markets, and we love that guy flying him up from California with more money than brains with a 1031 exchange. Awesome buyer. Yes, sir.
I'm just piggybacking off of that. Do you ever outsource, like, buy properties, like, 500 miles away, or, like, you know, just out of Rochester, like, not in Rochester?
No, the question is, did I ever buy properties out of town? No.
Okay.
No. I've invested passively in deals that are out of town because that's with the sponsors that know that market just like I know this market, right? But I don't know the market, and just like the Warren Buffett rule is I don't invest in anything I don't understand, or partner with somebody that understands, right? The resources part? Yeah, sure. Not this one where I don't know what to do with my hands. Okay. Off market, on market, how do we source deals, right? 50% have been on market, MLS, commercial properties on LoopNet or Crexy. Some of those deals have been the best deals of my life, right? Some of the stuff has been off market. They've been good deals, and some of those have been the worst deals of my life. So it really doesn't matter. So my framework for, let's say, if you're going for smaller residential off-market deals, single through 4-family, whatever, I was a direct mail junkie. All right, so I used a service called Yellow Letter HQ. I used a service called List Source to actually develop the list of properties with the criteria. And then I'd send out, let's say, 1,000 to 2,000 mailers in a campaign at a time. And I typically used like a wedding invitation sized envelope with my specification for the actual thing there, not like a regular, what do they call them, A4 envelopes or something like that? I don't know. But I wanted something that actually stuck out, right? And so that had a good high open rate, made it very personable, had a picture of my wife and my dog and that sort of thing. Like, hey, we're looking to buy something in the next 6 months. I know it's a shot in the dark, but we're interested in your property, blah, blah, blah. I utilized that strategy through direct mail, but don't sleep on market deals either, especially those ones that have been beyond 30, 60, 90 days. Sellers start to get nervous.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
That 70-30 that you're talking about, 100% multifamily, then you went to commercial. Was that because of the size of the business that you were
Stuff, it made collecting rent and the whole notice requirements very onerous. We're just like, all right, well, like, let's put a pause in this. And then what happened is we started looking at commercial deals in this whole environment, and there was properties we'd see that we could buy like on its in-place financials, not on projected financials. And there was a property we could buy for a property we just bought it about a year and a half ago. We bought it for $2.75 million. That we leased up about 8,000 square feet of space in the building, reappraised for $4.75 million. Okay, like that's a pretty decent equity spread on a deal over a year and a half. So I'm like, well, bye-bye multifamily. Like, you got old on us. But I think that multifamily, even single family it's easy to understand, right? Everybody needs a place to live. Yeah, it's a segue. And some people just stay in multifamily, right? Gary Van Bortle. You're in multifamily. Do you do anything besides multifamily? Nope. Multifamily. Loves multifamily. Okay? That's his niche. Any other questions before we wrap it up and do more networking? Yes, sir, in the back there.
Back to like the LLCs and just real estate overall, do you have any real estate specific attorneys that you've recommend for the LLC and then just for overall? I have one, but I'd like some other options.
Attorneys for LLCs. John Marchioni and Associates. If they didn't contribute to our organization, we wouldn't exist. Okay? And John's got a great team. So definitely get connected with John. Who's a Marchioni client here? Raise your hand, please. Okay, sir. Sir. What's his name? Gary? What's your name, sir?
Dan.
Oh, Dan. Okay, there's a couple of Marchioni clients right in the middle right here. Raise your hand, please. All right, they can connect you with him. Okay? Yes, sir.
Such thing as buying aged LLCs?
Okay, so buying aged LLCs, like buying a shelf LLC. I haven't had experience in it. Shelf LLC is basically there's companies that just start LLCs and then they season them and then you can buy a 10-year-old LLC. I don't know. I have no experience. It seems hokey to me, so I just didn't do it. Yeah, Patrick is like, all right, attorney says don't do it. So just start your own damn LLC. Last question. All right, cool. Thank you guys for coming tonight. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned maybe something, but we'll see you next month.